This week on ICN, the stories you should have heard, but didn't. The lines continue to be blurred between the police and the military. National Guard member who stood up for the Constitution when it counted. Granny Get Your Gun takes on a whole new meaning. The national debt crosses over $13 trillion. Those stories and more next on Informed Citizen News. Hello and welcome to ICN, Informed Citizen News, May 30th, 2010. There are quite a few new viewers who have started watching ICN in recent months. For those new to the show, we created ICN to share news stories each week that are underreported by mainstream news. The corporate mainstream media has shown little interest in informing the American people about the real threats facing our country. ICN selects news each week that was either buried or ignored by the national press. We focus on stories that are important to all Americans, regardless of political ideology. We emphasize stories that threaten our constitutional republic, prosperity, and individual freedoms. Thanks for watching, and let's get to this week's news.
Columbia Police search warrant! Take it up. Hey, get to the door. Go, get to the door. Police department, don't move! 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 Get past him. Move past him! Move past him! Come on, guys, you're fine. Somebody turn around. Stay around there. Don't move! You understand? Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. Behind your back! Did you shoot my dog?
The video you just saw was recently released through a Freedom of Information Act request. The incident happened in February this year and became public this month. Columbia, Missouri SWAT team executed this warrant based on an informant's tip that the house was used for dealing drugs. The police waited 8 days after the warrant was issued and clearly did not gather sufficient preliminary intelligence. They killed the family dog, firing shots inside a closed house where bullets can ricochet and travel through many walls, creating serious risk to life. Imagine the trauma experienced by the mother and child in the video. These are extreme tactics employed by the police even for a drug dealer. But as it turns out, they only found a little residue of marijuana in a single pipe belonging to the homeowner. They issued him a misdemeanor ticket. The militarization of our police has been incented and subsidized by federal government programs. Law enforcement is required to use reasonable and proportionate force. The Columbia, Missouri SWAT team failed, and the city is in the process of cleaning up the political and financial mess from this incident. Just this last month, 2 other raids went bad. One in Georgia, where a SWAT team entered the wrong residence after 2 years of surveillance, and another in Detroit, where police inadvertently shot a 7-year-old girl. When someone enlists in the U.S. Armed Forces, they affirm to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that they will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over them, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Soldiers are required to not obey illegal orders from the President or superiors that either conflict with the Constitution or the Military Code of Justice. Most of our viewers have heard of the gun confiscations by law enforcement and the military during Hurricane Katrina. These confiscations left people unable to defend their life, family, and property. But not all soldiers violated the rights of citizens. In fact, most performed their jobs professionally. There were some that made it clear they would not take part in any gun confiscations. Let's take a moment to listen to one soldier who was deployed to Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina.
There, of course, were rumors and things that martial law was in effect and that we were maybe going to be part of gun confiscation, firearms confiscation. And so there were some rumors, and a group of us had gotten together, a group of my buddies in the military, and we had talked about whether or not this was the right thing to do, and we came to the consensus that no, we will not be taking firearms. And so when we got there, because I was the loudmouth of the group, they asked me to go and talk to the commander, which I did, and I just explained to him that there's a group of us that we won't do that. He told us at that time that that's not happening here, don't worry about it. Then we won't be doing that. And in that area, we didn't have any problems.
Some soldiers don't think twice about the oath they take to defend the Constitution. But fortunately, there are some who do take it seriously and know what they are pledging to uphold. The busted oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico has received a lot of attention these past weeks. British Petroleum assessed the leak to be about 5,000 barrels per day, but independent scientists calculate that it could be up to 70,000 barrels each and every day. The spill will likely exceed the amount of oil released during the Exxon Valdez incident in 1989. The damage to the Gulf of Mexico may take years to assess. British Petroleum is worth about $100 billion. The American people should be working to ensure that BP cleans up the damage from the oil spill. If necessary, BP should be forced to make restitution by selling all their assets with the proceeds put toward the cleanup. Taxpayer dollars should be a last resort. An interesting demonstration video on a proposal to clean up the oil spill is available on YouTube. Two Gulf Coast shrimp fishermen show that oil attaches itself to hay, and the hay can be later scooped up by trawlers. It's an interesting idea, and it's worth checking out. The link is available in our news sources for this broadcast. 89-year-old Beatrice Turner used her handgun to defend herself and her home against an attempted home invasion.
At around 5:30 in the morning, the 89-year-old lifelong Des Moines woman hears what she first thinks is a loud knock at the door. She soon realizes someone is bashing his way in.
I always said, as long as you're on the outside, I'm not going to buy. But if you ever come on the inside, I said it's going to be me or you. If you're like this and he was there where you're at. And that's when I bing.
Beatrice fires one shot.
But I missed him. I was hitting for his head. And I missed him.
What kind of shot are you?
Well, then I must not have been a dang good shot. Because I must have missed him. But I'm not afraid.
As the predator continued to smash in her door, Ms. Turner fired. He ran away and was arrested by police moments later. The police interviewed Ms. Turner and even reloaded her gun for her. The average violent crime takes 1 minute or less to become deadly, while the average law enforcement response time is about 8 minutes. Most violent encounters can be avoided just by being aware of your surroundings and taking precautions. But crimes like home invasions may not give you the chance to avoid or escape. If you choose to own a firearm for personal defense, you should become trained in its use. That includes low light or no light scenarios when most crimes occur. Ms. Turner, clearly not trained in the use of her firearm, was fortunate. If the intruder did not run away or her errant bullets hit a child playing across the street, her story could have turned out tragic. When it comes to firearms, there's no such thing as being overtrained. As of this month, the United States now has over $13 trillion in national debt. This acceleration in debt has not been seen since World War II. Up until the 1980s, most of the country's debt was financed with long-term bonds. Now, most of the national debt is short-term bonds, making it vulnerable to interest rate swings. Adjustable rate mortgages have been the death knell for many people in recent years, and the country has the mother of all adjustable rate mortgages. President Obama announced Elena Kagan as the Supreme Court nominee to replace the retiring John Paul Stevens. Some hail the nomination as further diversifying the Supreme Court, which currently has 2 women and 7 men. Among them are also 1 Hispanic and 1 African American. But what is likely more important is the lack of diversity in education and religion. If Kagan is confirmed, then there will be 7 justices from Harvard and 2 from Yale. Also of note, 7 of the 9 are Catholic. So where Supreme Court justices form their values and foundation for making interpretations of the law, the court has very little diversity. Thanks for joining us this week. Our growth has been a tribute to our viewers spreading the word about us, and we appreciate your efforts. From all of us at Informed Citizen News, have a great week.